Good morning, everybody. Mark Johnson here at Guaranteed Rate, and I'm grateful to be with you today. And so thanks for tuning in. As you saw by the caption, interest rates had a wild week last week. They went way up from where they were, and now there's talk of a recession, inflation, as well as higher unemployment. And then Janet Yellen was even worried about, the value of the dollar. Now, the value of the dollar has gone down, but the thing that's great about that is that the 10-year treasuries last week had a very strong auction and were sold very quickly. So we think that that's not going to be such a big deal. Let's take a look really quick and see where the average interest rate was last week. It was 6.62, so it was down from 6.7. But again, this came out on Thursday. It was probably compiled somewhere by Monday or Tuesday of last week. Since then, you're probably looking at an interest rate somewhere between 6.7 to 6.875 today. And that's just kind of, where the market has gone. That's how fast interest rates go up. I always tell people, lock in your loan because interest rates always go up a lot faster than they come down. Now, every once in a while, I'll say, hey, let's cautiously float and see what happens during the day. Maybe tomorrow it'll come down a little bit, and maybe by the end of the week, we lock in. I never float over a weekend. So that's just kind of my philosophy on how I run my business. And my clients, never lose money if they lock in and listen to my suggestions. Anyway, let's go look at the right now. Let's look at the bond market, and this is where we buy money. And you can see that this was going down, which means interest rates were going up. Today has been a little bit better, and so we're seeing that the bond market is getting a little bit higher. Let's look at this 10-year treasury. You can see here the treasuries have gone up every single day. And then today, it looks like they might start coming down. And indeed, we hope that is the case. So let's talk for just a minute about what would happen if we did go into recession. What would happen if there's inflation along with that? And let's talk about where unemployment is. Unemployment today is somewhere between 4% and 4.25%. And what they're projecting for the end of this year is that unemployment could go from 4.25% to 4.5%, maybe even 5%. And if it gets up to the 5% rate, then that's going to force the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. But if you've got unemployment going up and you've got inflation going up, that's kind of a conflict of interest. But here's the other caveat, is that if we go into recession, we'll have to bring down interest rates. So you have inflationary pressures getting the Fed to lower interest rates. You've got some recession pressures of trying to get the Fed to go, which will cause the Fed to lower interest rates. And so all this is good for the market. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, what happens, for values of our homes if, we go into a recession? Well, as you can tell right now, let's look at the charts here. This goes all the way back to 1980 right here. And I started just before there in 1978. And so I started kind of in this high interest rate period where they were up to 18%. And you can see that home prices still went up. They kind of leveled off a little bit after the recession, but then they started going up. And then in 1990, we had a recession that year. And then, and so you saw that, maybe home prices came down a little bit. In 1996, we had another one. And then, right after, home prices continued to go up. In 2000, we had another one. And then in 2006, 7, and 8, this is where we had another recession. You can see this is the housing mortgage market crisis of that time. And the main reason is because home prices really came down. And this was the only time they really came down. And that's because so many people bought homes that really couldn't qualify for their mortgage. So we saw home prices go down. But ever since that time, you can see that, since about 2012, home prices have gone up. 2020 was when we had COVID. And right after COVID, or right during COVID, home prices just skyrocketed. And then they came down a little bit and then been going up, and then maybe a small little decline here. And then so far this year, we're looking at home prices up somewhere between 4 and 5%. So my prediction right now is that it's a good time to buy a house. If you're going to wait because you think that maybe home prices will come down, well, they probably won't. And the reason why is because if interest rates go up, you're going to see much more demand for home prices. Excuse me. If interest rates come down, you're going to see a demand for homes, and that's going to drive home prices higher. So right now is probably a great time to buy. It'll probably take till the end of the year to maybe have a reduction in interest rates that would really be advantageous to refinance. And so buy now, and then maybe 6 months, a year, interest rates will be at a place where it'll be good for you to refinance your home. So inflation is not good, and that will drive home prices up. Unemployment and recession fears will drive interest rates down. And so all that will cause just a run on homes that are available, and you'll start seeing, bidding wars like we did, in the 2020, 22 area there. So today's interest rate market recap is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate naming a new president, Victor Cordelli, who's been the president and CEO of rate companies and has been the president of Guaranteed Rate for, since it was inception, has announced that Shant Bonazian is now the new president. And Shant is just one of those people that are just awesome to work with. And just to watch him, he's been the #1 loan officer in the United States for the last 8 consecutive years. This guy really cares about his clients, his referral sources, and I can tell that he genuinely likes to share his success with us as loan officers. So you're going to see great things come about for that. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. Have a great weekend or week. It's the Holy Week, and on Sunday we'll celebrate Easter, which for me is just as important as celebrating Christmas. All right. Thank you very much.